So a little bit different video today. I'm probably going to talk more about like restaurant service and some things like that because I know a lot of you, if you've been following along, I'm guessing most likely interested in possibly becoming a sommelier, or you might be, or maybe you're already on that track to doing that, which means that you either do or are eventually probably going to do some restaurant work. And I have some fun little information that I found. I've been going through kind of redoing some things at home, and I was looking through my desk for a few things, and I found my old server book. It's a moleskine that I bought when I got my first job in a Michelin place, and that we were required to buy a moleskine and a bunch of other things. But I have all my notes here from that and from some other restaurants where I worked after that, and there's a lot of really good information here that I kind of wanted to share and show you guys because I thought you'd be really interested in it. There's a lot missing. Like I have pages you might be able to see here all torn out because that's old notes that are gone. I've actually been going through some old notes from a couple different places where I've worked before because right now I'm working my full-time job. I'm a restaurant manager, and we recently like doubled the size of our private dining. So I've been working with the team pretty closely on that, and I've been going through old notes from other places where I've worked and how we ran things, but those are mostly like tasting menu places, and this is higher volume. But this has been some really good reminders, and I know you guys would be interested in this too. So the first page of this that I have is from a place that I worked in 2021, I want to say. I helped open this restaurant. I worked there for a few months in front of house, and first page here I have is like a bunch of beverage and all my notes on that because we went through and tasted everything together. And then at the bottom I had our little floor plan too. And on the next page I had every single dish on our opening menu with some notes and every major allergen. And I kept this on me. This was my book that I took orders in. So I had this on me at every single table so that I could go through and reference that if there was any major allergen that came up. And a lot of restaurants I know today, I've seen people do this more and more recently, like over the last couple of years. They'll print out allergy sheets and they'll keep them inside stations. So there's kind of a disconnect there if people don't know things off the top of their heads as well, and they want to double check things, which we should always be double checking things. They have to leave the table, go walk over somewhere else, find that sheet, look at it, then come back, have more conversations with the guests. And what I did, and this is what I previously did at like other restaurants, and everybody I knew who used to work in the industry did the same thing. We would keep notes in our server books. So that's something I want to have my staff do now. But just so you guys know, like I'm looking through this and I have where I wrote allergies. I have notes here. Like I have one that says where the chicken is sourced, the type of sauce, different ingredients in there, and the allergies. And I have those all in like capital letters, larger lettering, and a bunch of exclamation points after it. So this one says like mushroom, dairy, allium allergy, bunch of exclamation points. And the next page I had all of our spirits to reference because it wasn't a huge bar, but I was able to reference that going back. And then what I'm really excited to look back through is I have all of these pages. I don't know if you can see that. All of these pages of different orders on here. And one of the first ones is a PDR. And at this place, we did set menu for that. Certain dishes were shared and some were individually plated. And I had a really specific way that I wrote down what everyone had and allergies and where everyone was sitting and the way I organized that and the way I organized every course. And then at the bottom, my notes for the shared items, because they added on, everything was individually plated for the tasting menu, and then they added on shared items on top of that from our a la carte menu. And so I had that at a, say, separate part at the bottom, and I want to take things like this and kind of look into the place where I'm working now, but their plates were smaller than the place where I am now. The place where I am now, our plates are fairly large, but I have like 3 months worth of notes on here. And then what else is really fun here, I went through this the other day. I have notes on a couple other places where I went after that. So after that, I went into a few other restaurants. I worked temporarily at a few places, and I landed in another new opening, and it's a place that now is a Michelin star. And a bunch of the servers and we would get together and say, hey, let's grab some coffee like an hour before work. And we would sit down and we wrote out we would take like a diagram of our floor plan, go, We've had issues during service of people running into each other around this corner and around this corner. Here's our entrances to the kitchen. Here's different ways that you can walk through the dining room. What makes sense? How are we going to walk through? What are we going to set as our standard of you can only walk this direction through this dining room so that we could get around there without making a lot of noise in the dining room and not run into each other because we all walked the right direction, the same direction. We wouldn't just stop and turn around, but we would get together and talk about these things and come up with these solutions and then walk up to our managers and say, hey, I think this is an issue that we've had. We talked about it. This is what we think would work really well because we were the ones in service all day, every day. So we saw all of those details, and from a management perspective, like, yeah, they could look at it, but they weren't the ones in service constantly. And they didn't see all the details that servers saw. So it was really important for us to do that and then bring it up to them and say, hey, what do you think of this? This is what we think would work really well. And then they would help us implement that. Or if they had really good feedback of like, maybe that wouldn't work because XYZ, whatever it is that they were able to see that we weren't thinking about, and then be able to give us our feedback. And then we as a team got together and fixed all of these problems. And it's been so different the last few years with people in restaurants because so many people who cared so much about these kind of details left. And a lot of people, especially after COVID, kind of moved up really fast in different positions. And we have a lot of honestly underqualified people in higher up positions in restaurants now, and it's causing a lot of chaos in a lot of places, and people aren't getting proper training. And I'm thinking a lot about this right now because I'm currently working on some training material for the place where I am, and we are working on changing some things. And while it's not a tasting menu place, it's not a Michelin-starred restaurant, it's an award-winning restaurant. They really have a name for themselves. The work we do is pretty important. I think the work that I'm doing is really important too, so I care a lot. We have a team of people who care a lot, but it seems like they haven't had the opportunity to work with, honestly, like they haven't had the guidance from their leadership teams in the past to really be able to succeed the way that they can. So that's been an issue, and we have a really solid team now in management. But I was so excited to see this because this is like, I've been trying to do this from memory and just writing down everything that I used to do, and now I have it. And I know I have some more too because I'll try to find some examples and like pop it up on the screen for you to see of things that I used to do when I was a server to really learn the menu really well. With drinks, I would like draw the glassware that we used, and then I would put these like, just imagine like a Collins glass, and I would just draw these lines and like color it in with different colors of the different ingredients that were in it. So that was a visual thing for me. Or I would draw like a coupe or whatever glassware it is, and then draw these little lines and color them in as like the portions of whatever the ingredient was in it. And that's how I started learning new menu items. And then with food, I would actually draw the dish itself and write down everything. And I mean, when I say everything, I mean, we knew every little micro herb that was in something. We knew exactly what farm everything came from. We talked about this stuff when a chef would talk about a new dish. Everyone had their books out and we wrote everything down. And I'm not seeing people do that anymore. And it's upsetting to watch a really talented chef talk about a dish that they're very excited to talk about and just see the staff staring at them, staring at the dish, and then that's that. And I think it's disrespectful because they put a lot of work into creating the menus that they create, and guests deserve to have that experience, and they don't. And there's this one bartender I work with right now who's really good about highlighting some really special ingredient that we use or some special technique that the chefs use and highlighting it when they're talking to guests about it. And guests love this stuff. And I heard other staff jokingly like making fun of this person they work with about it. And that was really upsetting to see because I love what that bartender does. And that's exactly what I want to see everyone else do because that's what we used to do in this industry, and that's people who really care do. And we have guests coming in who are here for, this is the kind of place where people go out that's not just a I'm hungry, I need a quick meal kind of place. It's absolutely an experience. And the place has been around for a couple decades, and it's been that kind of place since the beginning. So it's really upsetting to see that we're not all treating it that way. And sorry, that got kind of like sappy and sad, but it's true. And that's, I mean, this is, you guys want to see what it's like to work in restaurants, and this is what it's honestly like right now. It's upsetting to see, as someone who really cares so much about this industry and what we do, honestly, to see some people taking up space on staff at a restaurant that cares so much about the experience and just coming in and doing the absolute bare minimum, and sometimes not even the bare minimum, because they think they're going to make a lot of money. And they're like, it's easy and I make more money than I do at other places, but I need to see you care. Anyway, we're upping the standard on this. And when it comes to places like tasting menus, you know, I want to find these. Sorry, I need to go through this for just a minute to find some notes. Yeah. So like here, I have a bunch of different service notes that I wrote down, what kind of serviettes we're using for wines. And again, these are notes from a tasting menu place. Like when we are marking for the next course, are we using 2 people to do that when we're available, and like mirroring that during service. Things like when you're holding a tray, you don't hold that in front of the guest's face like this, you hold it away and pull something and put it on it and keep it away from them so you're not like right by their head with it. And that should be something you do anywhere. How you hold the silverware when you're marking, because you shouldn't be holding it anywhere near like the part that people are going to be eating with. You should never touch the blade of a knife, things like that. And there are certain ways, and maybe I'll do another video where I actually show you the way that I specifically hold this and do settings and the way that you kind of work around tight spaces, because I know people are really interested in that. I have notes on like different verbiage that you can use when you're asking for clearing, or nonverbal communication, which is huge. And like one that I used at another place was kind of like a diagonal, just like cross down like that by your lapel to say clear. So you could just make eye contact with someone. Or if it was like you had a section that was like table 21 through 24, you could go like clear 4, and people would know that's clear 24. Always washing your hands after touching guest napkins, because people somehow don't do that, and that's really gross. Minimalizing noise, and that's, you know, a huge thing because things can be really loud in restaurants. A lot of these notes are very specific to this restaurant. I have notes about our trays that we used and where we kept them, our crumbers, how we clean them, blacking out guest names on chits, because we would print, and most restaurants do this now, we print chits for reservations, and it has like the guest name, some information, where they were sitting, and we have guest notes on them. And a lot of places that are using these, they end up out in places that are in like guest view, and that can have some private information on there. So I've been at a couple places where we would take a Sharpie and we would black out the guest name, because we can always figure out who it was. We write down information on there too, to give back to the host at the end of the night, and they would put information in. But even with the blacked out name, we could still figure it out because we had the table number and the time they were there, so they were able to look it up. But things like that a lot of people don't think about, it's like, it's still important. We don't want all of this information about other people who are out there, out for just anyone to be able to just walk by and see. This was, again, a nicer tasting menu place, so we were like, should we have tweezers out to like fix a garnish if it falls? Talking about your posture. Where are you holding your hands when you're doing certain tasks at tables? Like, do you put one hand behind your back? Because some people do that. Do you have it to your side, or like right here? One of my favorite things I've ever done somewhere is I had a smaller version of this book. So imagine like this, but like a quarter of the size. And then when you have a team of, you have like front server, back server, or you can say like captain, server assistant, food runner, we're constantly in communication, and servers who work next to each other can kind of be like section buddies. And usually, hopefully, especially if you're working in a place that does pooled tips, should trust each other to kind of jump in as needed to make sure that everything's like taken care of at each other's tables if you get caught up on another task somewhere. And so like maybe you need a course fired on one of your tables and you're stuck at another table because there's like some crazy dietary restriction that just requires a lot of attention to talk through everything, whatever it is, your section buddy can take care of that. And one of the ways that we did that and did that really well was we had these little books, and we had ways, very specific ways, that we wrote down all of our notes on the tables, and we would like cross things out or put a check mark or whatever it was. That was our system for that restaurant to communicate, okay, we just cleared this course, we just fired this course, this is crumbed, this is marked, so that we didn't have to like scan the room, but you could just look at that book and you knew exactly what was done. Because yeah, you can look in your POS and see what's been fired, but that doesn't tell you everything. And you can just look at that book and you're like, I know that this table is on this course right now, it's been dropped, they're enjoying that. I can see that this one has been cleared, but they haven't been crumbed and they have not been marked, so we need to do that. I can see that this one was fired, they're almost done with their last course, so we need to make sure we clear and crumb and mark that fast. Things like that. And it's just a lot of that nonverbal communication. I've seen really cool ways that some places do, like they have people stand in specific places in the restaurant to listen for water orders. Some people also have like hand signals for water orders for like still versus sparkling water. So while someone is still at the table, has gotten that water order, someone else will walk through and start pouring still or sparkling water at the table, and people think that's really cool. And those are little just nonverbal, really easy things that we can teach people to do. That's like a wow moment for guests. Or like, how did you do that? How did you know what I just ordered? I just told them like 10 seconds ago and they're still here and I don't understand how that happened. And guests, they love that stuff, and it's like magic to them. And it's really fun to be able to create those kinds of experiences with people and still keep service feeling really warm. So I love that. And that's also, I mean, that's a little bit more, let's be honest, advanced than just writing things down like that. But again, you can write that down. And I've done things where it's like we put like a little star or something where people are drinking sparkling water. There's a lot of ways that you can communicate with everybody on your entire team, and you can implement fine dining techniques into high volume service. And it really comes down to just getting these systems set and keeping everything running to that standard. It's a lot of the nonverbal communication. It's the way that we would keep our glassware so perfectly polished. And that came down to, again, the system of like how we polish things, how we would spot clean things and check everything ahead of time before service started, so that in the middle of service, if I just like need an extra glass of whatever it is, it's like, I know that it's already going to look perfect. I'm still going to check it before I put it on the table, but it's going to look perfect, and I don't need to go like grab a polish rag and go try to polish 4 wine glasses because these people just brought in a bottle of wine that I know cost them like $2,000, and I don't want them to drink it out of like one of these crappy wine glasses. I want to get them the nice ones. But the nice ones are already polished because we just keep that in our rotation of like side work that we do to open and just keep things constantly looking nice and ready to use. And that's it's been a struggle for the last several years in different places that I've worked where people don't quite understand that. Drives me a little bit crazy because I'll see people, I can see like 10 staff members on their cell phones for like 5 to 10 minutes before pre-shift, and I'm like, if there's 10 of you on your phones for 5 minutes each, that's 50 minutes of work that could be done that you didn't do. So I don't want to hear it when you say, no, but it's too hard, we don't have enough time to do that, we can't do that, because I saw 10 of you on your phone for 5 minutes. That's almost an hour's worth of work that you just wasted that you could have done, and it cost each of you literally 5 minutes. And we used to keep our phones in our lockers, and if you got caught with your phone, like, you were done. It's just, we don't want to be mean, but there's a difference of just having standards and actually being mean, you know? So I'm like, I've been so frustrated with that. And I come home and I'm like stressed out about this every day. And so I'm sorry that I haven't been getting to all of this, but that's a little bit of what's going on. And I'm really excited about this because this is going to help a ton with just implementing some of those standards because I already have it written down and I just need to kind of tweak it to work in this space and get everyone on the same page, and we mostly are. It's just getting it into training with our team. We're moving forward. Industry's changing. People still really want that experience and they're craving that kind of experience, and I want staff to also understand, like, the place where they're working, people will tip a lot extra when you do this, because I want them to know, I'm like, when I've been a server, I've been that server where I might not get additional, if I'm working somewhere that has like auto gratuity, I wouldn't get tips on every single table, but when I did get additional gratuity, I was the one bringing in an extra like $400 or $500 from one table of like 4 people because of that service that I would provide. And I want to teach other people how to do that and get them to understand that I'm like, you can do this too. And if you actually care about it, which I know some of you do, then we got to do it, you know? And I want to do some videos teaching you guys how to do this too, because I know I've been in that place where I wanted to learn how to do all of these things, and I didn't have connections to people who worked in fine dining, so I was just kind of trying to learn this on my own and working in like the nicer Chicago suburb places, and there wasn't really anyone who could teach me how to do some of those nicer touches. After, like, I had one person who knew how to do a lot of those things who taught me my very first restaurant job, and I'm still really grateful for that because I started off with some really good standards from learning from that person. But after that, it was like, no, I knew just about as much as everyone else until I started working in Michelin restaurants, and they really kicked my ass, but they made me really good at what I do, and I'm so grateful for it. All right, sorry if this is kind of messy. I had the video cut out in the middle of this and I didn't really know where it ended. So just to kind of recap a little bit of this here, I'm super excited about all of this because I am working on a few things at work right now on like new training material, and I've basically been trying to go through all of my old notes here from memory, and now I actually have it written down, so that'll make it a lot easier because I've been really exhausted trying to think through all of that. And I definitely want to do some more videos to show you guys different techniques that I learned in fine dining and like how to utilize that and bring it into higher volume places, because you absolutely can do that, and it's things that really impress guests and is really fun to learn and teach other people. And it's even just things like the way that I put silverware down on tables to make less noise. It also looks a little bit nicer and it keeps you from getting fingerprints on things. Same thing with glassware. There's a few different techniques that I use for that, and I can definitely show you those in short format videos. So if you don't already have notifications on, make sure you hit the notifications on all so you don't miss any of those videos. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.